Bob Hassan, we're live again for another marketplace conversation. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Shawn. How are you?
Good. You look so cool in your office right there. That's amazing.
Well, thanks. It's cool outside, so I have a jacket on. I don't know
That's
why, because I do have a heater here.
right. Well, it looks good. It looks good on camera. Well, welcome everybody who's joining, and we're going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on from YouTube and Instagram, and or maybe not Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and our platform. So we're so glad you guys are on. Thanks for joining us. This is a marketplace conversation with Shawn Bowles and Bob Hassan, and we host the Exploring the Marketplace podcast every week. And we also have traveled around speaking to business people and career people all around the U.S. and beyond, actually. So I'm so excited that we get to have this conversation today, Bob, because our book's coming out on May 4th. May the 4th be with you with our book, which is all about Star Wars too. So it's a double whammy for me. I'm excited to release our book and to celebrate Star Wars.
Now, wait. Let me confirm something. The book is not about Star Wars.
The book is about hearing God's voice for people in the marketplace and for people in careers. This is not like anything you or I have ever done before. This is completely new stories, new thinking, and we really set a theological prototype and just a way of thinking for people who are in the marketplace, entrepreneurs, business owners, career-minded individuals. And it came out of the encounter that I had, which was, I feel like the next great worldwide move of God, that's not just church-centered, but all over the world, is going to happen mostly in the marketplace. And that's going to be the main steerer of it, because people are going to be so positioned with authority that it's going to solve problems in nations, solve problems in industries because of their relationship with God. So Joseph and Esther and Daniel are the prototype. So we wrote a book kind of based on how do we activate people and to hear God for their career, for their influence, for the marketplace. And we have a special pre-order. So I just want to tell you about it right now because it's only available during this broadcast. And as far as we have some sort of free shipping or discount or something, and they'll put it in the broadcast notes there, the comments, wherever you're looking at. But we also have, for everybody who pre-orders, if you're watching this later as well, we have a video series that we're going to talk about in just a minute because it's really profound that you can only get if you pre-order the book. And we also have a signed copy. Bob, you and I spent hours on Monday signing copies. I loved watching you sign copies of the book.
I think you circled me 3-1 in signing speed. It's not that I'm competitive, but it was a little bit
You were a little competitive.
All the stacks that came out from you, and then I had to throw you out of the room and take a break to even catch up.
You were almost intimidated by the 50,000 books I've signed in my past. Like you were like, how are you doing this? But the thing is, my quality of my signature compared to yours was so much better than mine. I feel like I'm a doctor. I'm just like, can you read that? I don't know.
Well, it was really fun. I've never done that before, signed that many books. I think we signed 1,500 books, right, for the pre-order special.
Oh my gosh, 1,500 books. So those are available for you now. We've started the pre-order campaign recently. Now, off of that, I just want to greet everybody who's coming in, Bob. We have people here from Ohio and then India, and then also Arizona, the exotic Arizona, Edgewater, Florida, Brisbane, Australia. We have people from West Africa, from Togo. Oh, come on, West Africa. We have a base there in Kenya, not Togo. From Brazil, I love you guys too. Brazil is a place of my heart. I always love Brazil. And Washington State, and just all over the place. People on both Facebook and YouTube, people are responding the most to where they're from. Now it's really going. People are excited. We're calling you out. Yes, Lake Tahoe. Lee from Dallas.
Lee's from Dallas. Lee's from Dallas. And so, that's its own country, I think.
Yeah, Dallas is, Texas is its own country and Dallas is a state for sure. We have more Texas people popping in right now. And Jakarta, Indonesia. Jakarta, which I missed you, Jakarta. I used to go every year, and I haven't been able to go, obviously, because of lockdown, but we will be back someday. And Madagascar, where the lions are. I love Madagascar. It's so beautiful. And also Kenya. Hey, Ian from Kenya. Sally from the UK, and Larry from Tennessee. Well, we're so glad all of you are joining us. We know a lot more will be joining as we go, and so we'll stop and talk to you guys. But I want to tell everyone who's joining us right now, this isn't just about us talking to you and sharing information about our book or about just what we're working on. This is also about you. In just a few minutes, we're going to turn it over to you, our commenting audience, to ask questions to Bob and I if you're in a place of career, marketplace, entrepreneurship, business ownership, and you want to talk about your faith and how that your faith meets those places of career and marketplace. Bob and I are here to answer questions. We're going to be answering those in just a few minutes, but you can start asking them even now. And we're going to go back through the list and scroll and highlight you for the rest of the viewer audience, which is so good. And hi, Christopher. Hello. Hello, Carl. This is so good. We have such a great crowd on here. Okay, so Bob,
Yes.
we did this video series. I'm not trying to promote it in the context of just buy our books and get a video series, but you and I, we just finished. I think we finished it. We got all these marketplace influencers. Some have a platform online where they do coaching and consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Some are just doing it in the region, and we even had your wife who does this. She does coaching and discipleship, mentoring, consulting. And we asked them some really cool questions about how do you hear from God? How do you think God's speaking in the marketplace? But the big question that I was really touched by was, if you go back in time and talk to your younger self at a critical moment, or if God could talk to you at that moment, what do you think he would say, or what would you want to say? And you and I were both really touched by every single person who answered that question, because they took a lot of time to really ponder it before we gave it to them. And it was pretty life-changing. Like I know both of us with Lauren, even like there was like tears, like just, it was so deep. But Pedro from 10X and we just had such a good diverse group of people. Ed Rush, who's the fighter pilot, he shared some things. So what was your highlight, or some of your highlights?
I was really pleasantly surprised at the vulnerability of everybody that we talked to.
Extreme vulnerability, yeah.
And I think that the kind of the overarching theme from everyone who didn't talk to each other, who didn't know what each other was going to say, was this notion of having grace on yourself when you're younger. And everyone said something like that, the aggressiveness that they had when they were younger, the intensity, if they would tell themselves like, chill, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a big one with Pedro, right? That was one of my favorite things that he said, is that he was in his darkest moment just like 7 or 8 years ago, suicidal, had figured if he died, he'd have $6 million of life insurance and he'd pay the $3 million of debt that was immediately due. I was trying to figure out how he could do that, how he can, and in the midst of that, like he's like looking at his life now, like he's living beyond his dreams, beyond what he could dream for because of his relationship with God and his wife and his kids and everyone. And he just shared that place of like, if I could go back and tell myself how good it's going to get, that this isn't my defining moment. This is just one part of the journey. But if I could tell myself, be patient with yourself, enjoy even parts of where you're at now. Like I was really touched by it, because I feel like with COVID, a lot of people are in a really dark space and it's become very defining for them in their career or in their place of work. It's like, is this what it's like? It's almost like the elephant who's tied to the pole, and they end up eventually, you don't even have to tie them to the pole. They'll just stay there because they're trained that this is where I am. This is where I live now. And I feel like a lot of people have gone through that during this last year, where it's like, I guess this is what I can hope for and expect. And so I feel like that was really cool for me. And then another one that was really cool is Lauren, who just basically shared from her spirit prophetically, I think, a place of grace and rest that she wished she would have had entered into some more. I just think that there were some places inside of the way she communicated that defined space to me. It defined how to walk in the marketplace or walk in a place of influence specifically. That was like, I was really touched. And I took some notes later on. I was like, okay, I want to really take that into my devotional time, in my prayer life, because she said some things I think was so, not just one-liners, but profound thoughts that you need to like ponder, like pondering thoughts. And that was really cool.
Yeah, she has these profound thoughts all the time, and it's so cool to hear them come out. And this book, Wired to Hear, is something really unique. I know you wrote Translating God and Keys to Heaven Economy, and you've written a bunch of other books, but this is not like that. This is not like Translating God. We're speaking directly to people who have jobs in the marketplace, and I think this project is going to be so good once it gets released. And and it really did come out of that encounter that you had, the word that you had about marketplace being the next great move of God. And I love the fact that we were able to write a book about this, and that it's so unique, and it from both of our perspectives. What do you think about that?
Oh no, it's so true. And I think with us talking to marketplace people consistently, the secret sauce is hearing his voice. The secret sauce is like staying connected and walking that out, like having a real relationship with Christ, where he's not just my CEO, but he's actually like your savior, your Lord, who's walking with you.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for us, how many people we sat with and helped through to navigate through really hard problems, and the
Mhm.
problems weren't what was at issue. It was their connection with God that actually got solved. And then the problems, manage themselves, or, they had wisdom for them. So it's cool to see that there's people on a mass scale wanting to embrace this wisdom revelation theme for the workplace. I mean, our podcast, I mean, you're uber famous in the Christian business community, Bob, now, because our podcast is one of the top downloaded podcasts in Christianity, and it comes out every Friday. So you guys can get it tomorrow. If you haven't listened to it, please subscribe, please listen. And people listen to this. And one of my favorite parts of our podcast, which we're about to do right now, is answer questions. And so I love that out of our podcast and these conversations we've had, that we wrote a book. And again, you guys can get the book today. You can pre-order it today, and you'll get it on before everyone else. They get it May 4th. You're going to get it ahead of time. We can't tell you how soon ahead of time, but you're going to get a signed copy, the video series we're talking about, and you're also going to get the book early. So I'd encourage you to get the book. It's called Wired to Hear. Bob, do you have a copy of it anywhere there on your desk or no?
I happen to, but I don't have the signed
on the
copy.
wall. I'd have to get up and get it.
I don't have the signed copy, but here's the book.
Wired to Hear. See all those wires?
Those are wires.
If you put it over your head, it looks like it's coming. I'm just kidding.
We were so creative. We had wires, and the subtitle, you guys, check this out: Connecting God's Voice to Your Life, Influence, and Career. I just love that subtitle. We have a great question.
Before we get there, Bob, let me mention one more thing. Keep asking your questions right now, because we're going to start answering them. I do want to mention, because we're doing a giveaway to business owners and to business leaders. We're giving away $1,000 grant, several $1,000 grants, and we're going to give the first one away April 2nd. We'll put the link in the comments right now. Our team will put the link in there for the grant to apply for it. And we're doing it. We want to create story and synergy around, like, we want to sow back into the community that's listening, that's viewing, that's engaging these conversations. And we want to create story around what God's doing through you. And if you need kind of a breakthrough, or you want just kind of the spiritual belief for us to be on the journey with you, please apply for the grant. And we've had, I think, 500 submissions already. The good thing is we're not just letting go of those submissions. We're praying over them. And we're also going to be building a contact list with you guys to be able to talk to you more in the future about things we're going to be offering. Like, I want to do some sort of business incubators and things where we actually help people in the future, especially on our platform. So I just want to encourage you to sign up for the grant. The link will be there in just a few minutes. And if you have a business, and especially if you're entrepreneuring, or if you have a new idea that you want to push forward, I know $1,000 can be a lot for some of you. It can be nothing for some of you, but the bigger thing is us being behind you to pray for you and hear the story and champion your story to our audience. I think is really profound, and will help just give you a lot of faith, which is really good. Okay, so here we go, Bob. What's the first question?
It's from Christopher Daigle.
Hey, Christopher.
How's it going? Thanks for the question. He says, I work in a GPO and focus on helping. Oh, there it is right there. How did that?
Glenn is good. Glenn is good. It's the team.
Focus on helping recovery centers, but recently have been helping hire groups and alike. I talk to CFOs and CEOs daily. There's this understanding of how busy these people are, where you want to be quick, but also the reality where people still long for relationship. How do you balance that dynamic in an industry where everyone is trying to sell to you, where I feel God has called me to be a light? That's such a good question.
I know it's like I think you got to find your people there, right? It's like ask God to bring his connections, his circle around you, and he will. And I'm sure you already have to some degree, but one of the greatest things and assets you're going to have soon is 4 to 7 business relationships that are defining to the culture that God's calling you to build. And like, I think of Bob with you, it's like, it's not just your immediate company, but it's the banker, the lawyer, the insurance guy, like all those people become your team. And the culture you're building with them is actually, they give back, they pour out, they feel fed, they feel loved. So I think that's one aspect of it. And then the second part that I would say, and I know, Bob, you're going to have a great answer for this, the balance to that dynamic is that look for God to give you discernment over motives. So everyone is going to sell something. That's the agenda. That's okay. It's okay to even have that agenda, but look for the motive behind it. Is there somebody that God wants to give you a connection to beyond the sales, beyond the business together? And some of Bob's long-lasting relationships in business are people that he gave a deal to or helped out a long time ago. Now, 40 years later, he's still in business with them. I have people that I've connected to in our company, and then also in our industries, especially in the entertainment industry, that I'm doing some work right now that I need some favors back. And I've given a lot of favors and capital and whatever. And everybody has an agenda. But the good thing is when you know who your people are and you know who God's calling you to, you just turn past the agenda and you go to coffee beyond the agenda, and you get to know that person and you start to build real rapport. And then when you need to give back or when they need to move forward in something, you know what the alignment's supposed to be. So it's not just like, I hope this works. And so I think that that's part of it too.
Yeah, Christopher, I started with this motto. I want to work with people I like, and I want my vendors and partners to be people that I like. And I just decided to build a relationship with them. And some other relationships did not work out, and some of them did. But like Shawn was mentioning, almost 40 years later, we have these long-standing relationships with people. And it doesn't mean business is easy. It isn't. But at least you know that at the end of the day, these people are going to do the right thing. I think you can blend relationship and quick turnaround, relationship and business, relationship and pricing, relationship and consulting. And I think people will know you as being a covenant person or someone who wants to build a culture in addition to the business that you're providing.
Totally. And I think that's kind of a well-rounded way to look at it, that you probably already know, but just having us say it again, it's like, this is what we've lived. And so it will happen. We have another question from Carrie Lynn. Keep asking your questions, you guys. There's no questions too small when it's comes in regards to, oh, good, you put the question up there. I was just going to answer that or have Bob answer it. We have questions that we want to answer right now, but keep asking your question. Carrie Lynn, I have a new online retail business that has a faith-based component in our brand and product. What advice would you give to balance that? We're thinking about doing an Easter sale, but then again, don't want to misrepresent Jesus or use him to get sales, even though selling products is a main objective of our business, or of course. I have an answer for that. Go for it.
Go for it.
I was going to say, the reality is that you're not in a church service. This isn't not in the temple where you're going to get, the temple money changers were using the church only for gain. There was no deep or connected relationship to God. So Jesus comes in and judges and says, my Father's house will not be a den of thieves and liars and sales, but my Father's house will be a place of a house of prayer for all nations. That's completely different than I'm going to start a business that's geared to people culturally representing their faith, and then other people benefiting from a faith-based business that has a product, and you're allowed to sell and do everything you can to promote that. And every aspect of holidays, which is part of our culture, it's how we celebrate each other. Like I just bought my daughter some beautiful outside like rain boots from a Christian faith-based business I found on TikTok. It was phenomenal business. Starks chewed one of them up already, so I have to buy it. But I saw her story on TikTok, and it was a beautiful story of a faith-based company. I was like, I gotta buy these for my girls. I have to support this company. But if they did an Easter sale, I would even be more happy, because I'm buying stuff for my girls, both to represent Easter in the sense of our family tradition of what we love, we give to them, but also spiritually, we're teaching about Easter and allowing it to be the fullness of who Jesus is resurrected. So I think any holiday is fair game for business. And I think it's good for businesses unless you have a check or a feeling like you're not supposed to do it. We do sales even in our Christian books because we're a Christian bookseller. I know Charisma does the same thing, which we're on Charisma Podcast Network. When you're doing Christian business, there's nothing wrong with using the full market, the full tax benefits, the full everything. But when you're doing it inside of a church structure itself, that's when you have to be a little bit more careful because you're nonprofit.
Yeah, Carrie Lynn, I love that you have a new business that has the faith-based component to it. So I look at that as two silos. And I think, there's plenty of businesses out there that are selling to faith-based people. And I applaud that and say that, I want to do business with, and I want to buy from people who I respect. And I'm sure your story is really, really cool. And when people hear your story, they're going to want to buy from you. So, blow it out in the Easter sale.
Seriously, blow it out at Black Friday. People love to shop on these moments, and it's part of how our culture celebrates holidays. But then in your own spiritual expression, really express what the holiday means with your family. Don't let that get compromised. That's what we do. I'm so glad you put the link because I wanted to know what you guys do. So thank you for putting the link to your business as well. We have a question, Bob, from Allison. She says, how do my business partner and I see all the words of the Lord start to come pass in our online boutique business, feeling like we've done all things we can to partner with them? What would you
Well,
suggest?
I would say, part of our relationship with the Lord is spending time to listen to him. We're wired to hear. And so all these words that you have, I would practically put them in one place, look at them, spend time hearing from God about them, and then use those as sort of the genesis of your strategic plan and the direction that you go.
I love that because I think when Paul says, having done, I'll stand. One of the companies I went into, they were on a really downturn. This is a major, like Fortune 500 company. They were in a terrible place, and the chairman, had put on all of the walls in the hallways every prophetic word with a photograph that represents the prophetic word that they had for their future. And then they would walk down the hallways and he said, "Do a prayer time." A lot of the employees weren't Christians. Do a prayer time if you can when you're at your lunchtime, going to the bathroom or whatever. Look at one of the words and take it in and say, "This is what I believe our company will become." Now, I think it's been 10 years. They are on the reverse or the other side of that, the flip side of that, not the reverse side of that, the flip side of that. And they're doing phenomenal. But there's something about having done, I'll stand. It's like standing in the midst of promises going, "I cannot make this happen for you, God. I cannot make this happen on my own." And so I'm stuck waiting for you to do this, but I'm not going to be stuck in a victim way. I'm going to be now managing this space that I'm like waiting in, like the wilderness time, yeah, with faith, not with like the children of Israel who didn't have faith. So I think that's a great, great question. It's a very hard place to be in, but I promise you it'll pay dividends if you can get through it with grace. How about Bob? Do you have any questions here?
No, Kevin Fix is talking about a vision he had. And so, Kevin, go to bullsministries.com and look for the grant form and fill out the grant form. We would love to hear from you.
I love that. Yeah, we some of the questions we've had lately, Bob, it's been people who have a lot of mix between ministry and business, but we've also been having some incredible questions, come online from people who are like, they're in the full retail space, or they're owning restaurants, or they're doing new fashion design companies, or lawyers and doctors, because we've had a lot of like lawyers, doctors, those kinds of people on it, even farmers. So it's been fun to get such a diverse, I mean, the kingdom is everywhere. And it's so amazing to get such a diverse audience out of this. It's not just
Yes.
one type of person that's listening or connecting to us. Thank you for everybody who's joining right now. We probably have time for one more question if somebody wants to ask one right now. And I think we just got one from Myra.
Yeah.
How do you ensure God's leading in every business decision? I have a God vision business for third world countries, which will need quite a bit of funding. So I've started another business purely for funding the other business. How do I know that God's in the second business and the time I need to focus on both businesses?
Well, one of the things Shawn and I talk about a lot is vision. And it sounds like you have a beautiful vision for the third world countries that you want to minister to. And so the age-old question is, how do we fund it? Like, do you crowdsource it? Do you raise money from family and friends? Do you do what you've thought, which I really applaud you for, is start another business?
Yeah.
You don't say what the business is purely for funding, but what I believe in is a quick strategic plan. And what that means is putting on paper what you want to do and what you believe that this second business will do and how it's going to happen. And then, Shawn, whether it's an incubator group or Myra, who friends that you admire that are in your circle that you can bounce this off their head, it always is great to have the wisdom of a multitude of counselors. And Shawn and I always talk about having people in your life that that you could, even if you might not know them personally, you could say, "Listen, I need some advice. Could I buy coffee for you?" And bounce these ideas off their head.
Yeah, I think that one of the big things with that is that there's a place of uh, needing to do a business unless you're going to start a nonprofit, fully nonprofit, and just raise money, be a fundraiser, which is a specialty. And there's people who are super good at that and people who are super bad at that. I'm a decent fundraiser, but I didn't start out a decent fundraiser. Now I've raised funds for, our schools and war zones through Justice Rising. I've raised money for Unlikely Heroes, which is an anti-human trafficking ministry. And I've raised a lot of money for other groups, but it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's like a real job when you do it for real. It's not just something you take an offering in a meeting. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to learn fundraising, grant writing, the whole thing. If you want to do a business that ends up starting another business for them, I would say do your business, become successful in it for 10 to 20 years, and then start to, create forms, maybe 5 years in of something there, and let it multiply as you go. And then maybe other people will lend their strengths to it too. I think that's the hardest part, is like, do I want to do this, or is this a side project? If it's a main project, do I want to get the skills to build around it? God loves your heart no matter what, but I'd encourage you. This is the next 20 years of your life, next 30 years of your life. So, and if you're already 15, 20 years in,
that's good.
Then that's a thing to actually let that settle inside of you, to go, okay, this is going to take a while. And so how would I plan if I knew it was going to take 20 years? It'd be a lot different than, how am I going to start both these right now in the next 5 years, have impact,
Yeah. Robert Walker asked a quick question about finding a trustworthy tax attorney. And Robert, this is the question. And so, we struggle with this, and we find people and we hold on to them for dear life. What I would recommend to you, wherever you are, is start asking questions to the other businesses in your sphere, in your church, anywhere that you are around, asking questions for personal recommendations. That's how I've always done it. I continue to do it. And I think that's how you'll need to do it. I do not know of any network recommendation.
Yeah, it's really hard. If we gave you our recommendation, they're so personal. It's kind of like a doctor. That doctor may be your best family doctor. You go, this person doesn't work for me. So I think it's like, trust God. He's going to lead you to someone. There might be a Christian networking group in your region that can help you a little bit more, depending on where you're from. And that could really help. Like we would have recommendations maybe just in California, but not just anywhere in the world, So pray about it though, for real. Like, cause that's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Like Sheree and I went through a 5-year journey that was hard to get this exact thing in place. And it's still, it's a hard one. It's especially if you have creative tax strategy thinking that you have to do depending on your organization. So thank you guys so much for these questions. Thanks for joining us for the Marketplace Live. I'm going to remind you, you can pre-order our new book, Wired to Hear, and you will get the pre-order special, which is a signed copy, as well as video series that's all about what would you answer to yourself or ask yourself if you could know your older self 30 years from now, and how would you respond? And we asked a number of amazing leaders and influencers this question. You don't want to miss this series. It's only available for those of you who pre-order the book. You can go to our website to pre-order the book. If you want to apply for the grant, if you're a business owner or entrepreneur, please also go to our website. There's links for both of those in all the comment section below. Thanks for joining us, and listen to our Exploring the Marketplace conversation podcast tomorrow, which is going to be really exciting. Who's on tomorrow, Bob? Do you know?
I don't know.
I don't either. I have the graphic too. That was a big fail on my part to not be able to tell you who's on tomorrow, but it was an amazing conversation.
It's going to be good. I know it's going to be good.
Well, the last 10 we recorded are like the best. They're so amazing. So we're going to have a great time. So thanks you guys so much. Listen tomorrow, and we'll be with you again soon. Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.